r/AskReddit. W3 Stwood says, what's the brokest thing you've ever done? Siren Song 150 says, stole food for my kids. Really ashamed but I couldn't let them go to bed hungry. W3 Stwood says, I 100% respect this. Turdsworth says, if you have kids and you can't afford to feed them, I do not consider this theft. Trailer Park Prepper says, called in sick on Wednesday because I didn't have enough gas money to drive to work but one more time, which I waited till Thursday to do because that was payday. Zerby says, I've done that when I returned my boss just silently handed me $20 and said next time just ask me if you're that short. He was a quirky guy and had some political views that are definitely old-fashioned, but he took good care of his employees. Mopedman says, as a boss, it is almost always worth helping an employee out to secure reliable transportation. I've had a bunch of otherwise really good employees who were sometimes unreliable due to transportation issues, and it always paid dividends to advance them money to get their car out of impound or give them a ride to the DMV on company time. Loyalty boost, and now you can count on them being on time. Rossican25 says, when I was damn near homeless, literally had no money for food, and food stamps said I made too much to be assisted. BS. I didn't have any underage kids, so I didn't qualify to be helped by a food pantry, and the only other one I knew would only let you visit once a month. I would find fast food receipts on the ground, and I would call corporate. I would always say the staff was super nice, and they accommodated me very well, but my food was probably mixed up with someone else's order and I lived far away, so I couldn't go back on the same day. I would either receive coupons for free food in the mail or they would put my name down, and I could just go to any of the fast food places in the city and get food. The city I lived in was pretty big and most of the restaurants were run by independent or different franchises, so they never really caught on to me. I once got 4 free meals from Chick-fil for one receipt. I'm doing a lot better now, so I promised myself I would never do it again. Storyteller says, it's okay that you did this. It's absolutely not something you should feel guilty about. Food is a right and accessing it can be a lot harder than people think. Dumbland11 says, hit in a day old Hostess bakery outlet dumpster point shit. Was still packaged and just fine. My elderly mom would get so excited when we brought that stuff home. She had lived through the depression and couldn't believe it was thrown out. Such a treat. Turdsworth says, nothing wrong with dumpster diving. It reduces waste and is good for the environment. I know people who are middle class who do it as more of a political thing. Junkyard Dog says, bought a case of ramen noodles at the self-checkout at Walmart with 4 different debit cards that each had less than $1 on them. You can make partial payments at Walmart self-checkout and nobody has to know how broke you are. Me and my 3 kids ate for the next 2 days. Chivas0356 says, got a gym membership just for the shower when I was living in my car for 3ish months at 22. Nelson Algren Kamatome says, I also did this for about 2 months years ago. I did manage to stay in great shape for a handful of years after though. Rosine 663 says, wash dirty clothes in the bathtub with dishwashing liquid. Couldn't afford quarters for the machine. Queef Bibble says, I'd wear my clothes into the shower, wash them and myself at the same time, remove them, rinse myself and the clothes, and then hang them to dry. I also ate once a day because I got a shift meal. Silly Banana 2012 says, I overheard my neighbor, Thin Walls, yelling at her boyfriend for not helping to pay for anything while she was washing her clothes with dish soap in the bathtub, and it kept giving her uterus and yeast infections. My partner and I were not well off but certainly not struggling, so I left a new container of laundry detergent next to her door for her. I hope it helped her. False Weekend says. Brokest and stupidest thing I did. I bought scratch tickets in hopes to win money to buy Christmas presents when I was 18. I didn't want anyone to think I had money problems at the time, so I spent $10 on a scratcher and won $500. I don't know how, but it was enough for car insurance and presents. r/AskReddit. Akisfathusband says. What is the most delicious meal you have ever eaten? Clarence Claymore says. A succulent Chinese meal. No_web8554 says. Not really relevant to the question as it's a dessert, but my mom was trying to make a chocolate cake for my grandpa's birthday and it kind of fell apart everywhere, and she was crying because it didn't turn out how she wanted. It kind of looked like that cake Bruce ate on Matilda after he stuck his hand in it. But let me tell you, it was the greatest cake I have ever tasted. I ate so much I thought I was going to throw up. Everyone demolished that cake that day. Kayadagam_Delgadi says. I once had a succulent Chinese meal. Zelaucidil_tax_806 says. The other day my BSF and his sister made me and another friend a homemade risotto and curry chicken. I shit you not, as soon as the food touched my tongue I wanted to cry. That day I was so starving, as there's not too much each at home, and just having that meal was amazing. It tasted so good. To top it off they gave us tiramisu afterwards. I was so full that I had to lie down for half an hour to recover from the itis. Jealous_resort_8198 says. Oakwood restaurant by Loch Ness. I still dream of that meal. Chef there knows her stuff. Brain Frizzer Giraffe says. Mom makes shahi paneer with basmati rice. My egg rolls are a close second. Ghost Fascine Space says. My all-time favorite parmesan crusted chicken from Longhorn Steakhouse. Creature82 says. Steak Florentine with roasted garlic rosemary potatoes, red wine vinaigrette salad, bottle of Brunello Reserve, and a fresh strawberry cinnamon mascarpone dessert. Sigh. Now I need to go back to Florence. ZeroNet says. Homemade tomato pie with homegrown tomatoes. Not pizza, tomato pie. Sitting No 7761 says. My mum's homemade hunter's chicken. Mundanity says. Christmas 2013. The smell of grandma's cooking, grandma and grandpa talking, dad and his brother talking, family love surrounds the table. They are all gone now, who's left hates one another, the table sits empty. I'll never forget that feeling, or the meal on my plate. The only time I ever closed my eyes to take a mental still shot of a feeling. Life's a bizatch. Frank Sano says. There's a place called Neo in Brickell, FL that I'd go to once a year. When it was further north I'd go more often, but it's a pain to drive down there. But it's always worth it. More of an experience than a meal, so treat it like having a performance and meal and the prices won't seem out of line. Master_review 4013 says. Pizza. Icarus 9D6 says. Roast beef that was so tender it literally melted in my mouth. Saucetopchida says. I had a chicken satay once at a tiny pub next to my hotel in Amsterdam. I was only there for one night 20 years ago, and I still think about that satay, it was so good. I am disturbed says. Fettuccine Alfredo at a casino restaurant in Street. Louis. Almost cried, it was so good. Fnord 333 says. In college. Peanut butter on taco shells and a can of chickpeas. That's all there was, and it was the greatest meal of my life. Gupuchamoy69 says. Most anything my girlfriend makes. It makes me want to cry sometimes. I give up says. It makes me think back to the meals after an unusually physical long outdoor day's work when I was younger. When your body is screaming for calories and you feed it some delicious food, there's not much to beat it. Similar to a cold beer on a hot summer's day. Priyatampan Sejuti says. Indonesian fried rice made by mom. Nothing in this world come close to the taste of it. Nokatai says. An old friend cooked the best steak I have ever had on a $3.99. Disposable hibachi. Tiny_Emi says. Brown butter lobster rolls from Eventide Oyster Co. Portland, me. Mozzarella pizza from Modena Pizza, New Haven, Court. Piragi from Aptica, Pittsburgh, Pa. General Tso's chicken lunch special from Manuan, Geneva, Nye. Soup dumplings from Wu Shanghai Dumpling, Edison, NJ. Brisket, and sides from Black's BBQ, Lockhart, TX. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.